Ben Carter stood at the observation window of the Earth vessel Horizon and watched the planet grow larger. It was beautiful in a strange way. The surface was dark purple, covered in thick clouds that flickered with lightning. This was home of one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, and Ben was about to become the first human ambassador to set foot on its surface. He had volunteered for this mission when everyone else refused. The other diplomats had read the reports about they had seen the images. They wanted nothing to do with this assignment, but Ben saw something different in those reports. He saw a species that had cut itself off from humanity for 50 years. He saw isolation. He saw pain. The ship entered the atmosphere with a gentle shake. Ben grabbed the railing and waited. He was 34 years old, not particularly tall, with brown hair that never stayed neat and eyes that his mother always said were too kind for politics. He had spent 10 years in the diplomatic service, taking the missions nobody wanted. He went to the dangerous places. He talked to the species others feared. It was not bravery. It was something else, something he rarely talked about. The Horizon landed on a platform made of black crystal. Ben walked down the ramp and felt the air hit his face. It was warm and smelled like metal and flowers mixed together. Strange, not unpleasant. A group waited for him at the bottom. They stood in a line, dressed in flowing robes of silver and black. Ben tried to get a good look at them, but they all kept their heads turned away. They did not look at him directly, not one of them. "Ambassador Carter," one of them said. The voice was deep and had a clicking sound beneath the words. "Welcome to, I am Advisor Tellen. I will be your guide during your stay." Ben smiled and stepped forward with his hand extended. It was a human greeting, a handshake. Tellen looked at the hand for a moment, then slowly reached out and touched it briefly before pulling away. "Thank you, Advisor Tellen," Ben said. "I am honored to be here." Tellen nodded but still did not look at Ben's face. None of them did. They guided him toward a large vehicle that floated above the ground. Ben climbed inside and sat on a seat made of something soft and warm. They sat across from him, but they all faced slightly away, as if looking at him would cause them pain. Ben noticed this. He said nothing about it, not yet. The vehicle carried them through a city unlike anything Ben had ever seen. The buildings were tall and thin, made of the same black crystal as the landing platform. They caught the light from the 3 moons above and scattered it into rainbows. Rivers of glowing liquid flowed between the structures. Bridges made of light connected the towers. It was beautiful, truly beautiful. "Your world is amazing," Ben said. Tellen made a sound that might have been surprise. "You find it so?" "Yes, very much." Tellen was quiet for a moment. Humans do not usually say such things about our world, or about us. Ben leaned forward slightly. "What do humans usually say?" Tellen did not answer. The vehicle continued in silence. They arrived at the royal palace. It was the largest structure Ben had ever seen, a mountain of crystal that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Inside, the halls were wide and dark. Small lights floated in the air, providing just enough glow to see. Ben noticed that everywhere they went, they stayed in shadow. They moved along the edges of rooms. They kept their faces hidden. He was brought to a chamber that would be his quarters. It was comfortable enough. A bed, a desk, windows that looked out over the glowing city. Tellen stood at the door. "The Queen will communicate with you tomorrow," Tellen said, "through the viewing screen. She does not meet visitors in person." Ben turned around. "Never. Never, it is not done." "Why?" Tellen hesitated. The advisor's multiple eyes blinked behind the hood of the robe. "It is complicated, Ambassador. The Queen prefers distance. She believes it is better for all." "Better for who?" Tellen did not answer. The advisor bowed and left. Ben stood alone in his room. He thought about what he had seen, the turned faces, the shadows, the hiding. Something was wrong here, something deep and old. He could feel it. The next morning, a screen on the wall flickered to life. A voice came through, deep and ancient and female, but the image was blurred. Ben could see a shape, tall and thin, but no details. The Queen was hiding even through technology. "Ambassador Carter," the Queen said, "I am ruler of the Empire. I welcome you to our world, though I confess I do not understand why you came." Ben sat down facing the screen. "I came because your people requested a human envoy. My advisors requested this. I had my doubts. Humanity and have not been close. There are reasons for this distance." "What reasons?" The Queen was silent. On the blurred screen, Ben could see her shape shift slightly. "Your kind finds us unpleasant to look upon," she finally said. "When our species first met, your soldiers reacted with horror. They raised weapons. They screamed. We have not forgotten this. We learned that humans cannot bear the sight of us, so we keep our distance. It is better this way." Ben felt something heavy settle in his chest. So that was it. 50 years of isolation because of one terrible first meeting. Fear turning into shame. Shame turning into hiding. "Your Majesty," Ben said carefully, "that was 50 years ago. Those soldiers were frightened because they did not understand. Fear and disgust are not the same thing." "Are they not?" The Queen's voice was cold. "We have heard what other species say about us. Monsters, nightmares, abominations. We have accepted the truth of what we are. With respect, Your Majesty, other species do not speak for humanity. We decide for ourselves what we find beautiful or frightening." There was a long pause. "You are bold, Ambassador. Foolish perhaps, but bold. I would like to meet you in person, Your Majesty." The blurred shape on the screen went very still. "That is not possible." "Why?" "Because I will not subject you to such an experience, and I will not subject myself to seeing your reaction. I have lived long enough to know what human faces look like when they see us." Ben stood up. "Your Majesty, I came here to build a bridge between our peoples. I cannot do that if we hide from each other. Please, give me a chance." The silence stretched on. Finally, the Queen spoke. "Very well, Ambassador. Tomorrow you will be brought to the throne room. But I warn you, what you see may change everything you think you know about courage." The screen went dark. Ben stood alone in the quiet room. He did not know what the Queen looked like. He did not know what he would see tomorrow. But he knew one thing for certain. He would not look away. Ben did not sleep well that night. He lay in the soft alien bed and stared at the ceiling. The lights of the city outside painted moving shadows on the walls. He thought about the Queen. He thought about her voice, how it carried centuries of pain in every word. He thought about what could make an entire civilization hide from the light. Morning came slowly on. The 3 moons faded one by one. A dim sun rose through the purple clouds, casting everything in a soft golden glow. Ben dressed in his formal uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. He wanted to look respectful. He wanted the Queen to know he took this seriously. Advisor Tellen came to collect him. The advisor still did not look at Ben's face, but there was something different in the way Tellen moved. Nervous, almost frightened. "Ambassador," Tellen said quietly as they walked through the dark halls, "you should know that no outsider has stood before the Queen in over 100 years. What you are about to do is unprecedented." "I understand." "I do not think you do." Tellen stopped walking. For the first time, the advisor turned to face Ben directly. Ben saw Tellen's face clearly now. Multiple eyes, 8 of them arranged in 2 rows, a mouth with small mandibles on the sides, skin that looked like dark purple leather, smooth and shining. Not human, but not ugly either, just different. "The Queen has suffered greatly," Tellen said. "When she was young, she traveled to other worlds. She tried to build friendships with other species. They rejected her. They called her terrible names. They laughed at her. She returned home and has never left since. She has ruled from darkness for 200 years, Ambassador. She believes she must hide to be respected." Ben felt the weight of those words. 200 years of loneliness. 200 years of ruling an empire while believing you were too horrible to be seen. I will not hurt her, Ben said softly. I promise you that. Talon studied him with those many eyes. Then the advisor nodded and continued walking. They reached two massive doors made of black crystal. Guards stood on either side, tall and silent. Talon stopped and gestured for Ben to go forward alone. The queen waits inside, Talon said. May you find the wisdom to speak truly. Ben took a deep breath. He pushed the doors open and stepped inside. The throne room was completely dark. Ben could see nothing. He heard the doors close behind him with a heavy sound. For a moment there was only silence and blackness. Then a single beam of light appeared in the center of the room. It came from somewhere high above, a circle of white light about 10 feet across. Ben understood. He was meant to stand there. He was meant to be seen while the queen remained hidden. He walked to the light and stood in its center. The brightness made it impossible to see anything beyond the circle. He was alone in a room of shadows, watched by someone he could not see. You came. The queen's voice surrounded him, coming from everywhere at once. I said I would. Many have said such things before. They changed their minds when they saw me. Ben stood straight and calm. I am not them. No, there was something like curiosity in her voice. Perhaps not. Tell me, Ambassador, why do you want to see me so badly? What do you hope to gain? Nothing. I hope to understand. Understand what? Your people, your culture. How can I build friendship between our worlds if I do not truly see who you are? The queen laughed, but it was not a happy sound. It was bitter and old. You want to see who we are? Very well, let me tell you. We are the species that other species use to frighten their children. When they want to scare their young into behaving, they tell them the will come for them. They call us the face of nightmares. Even the who are not known for their beauty say we are too hideous to look upon. Ben listened. He did not interrupt. For centuries we tried to prove them wrong, the queen continued. We built magnificent cities. We created art and music and science. We thought that if we showed our greatness, others would see past our appearance. But it did not matter. They looked at our faces and saw only monsters. Your Majesty, Ben said, humans have a long history of judging others by their appearance. We judged each other. We feared people with different skin colors, different features, different bodies. We were wrong. It took us centuries to learn, but we learned. We know that appearance does not show the truth of a person. Pretty words, the queen said, but words are easy in the darkness. Let us see if you can speak them in the light. Ben heard movement in the shadows, heavy footsteps coming closer. His heart beat faster, but he did not move. He kept his hands at his sides and his face calm. The queen stepped into the edge of the light. Ben saw her. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, with a body that was both powerful and elegant. Her skin was made of scales, thousands of them, black as night but shimmering with deep purples and blues when the light touched them. She had 6 eyes, large and glowing a soft amber color, arranged in a pattern across her face. Her mouth had mandibles that clicked softly as she breathed. Long arms ended in hands with 6 fingers each, tipped with dark claws. Behind her back, Ben could see wing-like structures folded against her body, thin and delicate, and covered in the same beautiful scales. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. She was magnificent. The queen watched his face with all 6 of her eyes. She was waiting for the horror, waiting for the disgust, waiting for him to turn away like everyone else. Ben smiled. The queen froze. Her mandibles stopped clicking. Her eyes blinked, all 6 of them, one after another. Why do you smile? She whispered. Her voice was no longer powerful. It was small, confused, almost afraid. Because you are beautiful, Ben said. You lie. I do not lie. I have spent my life learning to see things as they truly are. I have walked on worlds covered in fire. I have swam in oceans of liquid metal. I have seen creatures that could kill me with a single touch. Humans do not find these things ugly, Your Majesty. We find them amazing. We find them wonderful. We stand in awe of things that could destroy us. The queen stepped fully into the light. She towered over him, this ancient ruler who had hidden for 200 years. Her eyes searched his face for lies. She found none. "I am hideous," she whispered. "Human, why do you not see it?" Ben did not answer with words. He simply stood there, looking at her with eyes full of nothing but respect and warmth. He did not flinch. He did not look away. "Tomorrow," he said gently, "I would like to talk more, perhaps in a place with less darkness. I think you have spent enough time in shadows, Your Majesty." The queen said nothing for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "Tomorrow," she agreed. Ben bowed and walked back toward the doors. He could feel her watching him all the way. When he reached the exit, he paused and looked back. "Your people built this palace to catch the light and turn it into rainbows," he said. "I think they understand beauty better than they know. Perhaps it is time for their queen to remember that." He left her standing in the light, alone with thoughts she had not allowed herself to think in 200 years. The message came early the next morning. A simple note on the viewing screen in Ben's room. It gave directions to a place called the Inner Garden. No advisor would take him. He was to come alone. Ben followed the directions through winding hallways. The palace was a maze of crystal and shadow, but he found his way. He came to a small door, plain and undecorated. It looked almost forgotten. He pushed it open and stepped through. His breath caught in his throat. The inner garden was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. It was open to the sky, but the light that came through was soft and gentle, filtered through layers of transparent crystal high above. Plants grew everywhere, but not like any plants on Earth. These glowed, soft blues and greens and purples, pulsing slowly like heartbeats. Flowers the size of his head turned toward him as he walked, following his movement. Small creatures floated through the air, tiny and bright, leaving trails of light behind them. In the center of the garden was a pool of water that glowed from within, and sitting beside that pool was the queen. She was not hiding anymore. She sat in full view, her scaled body catching the soft light and throwing off colors like a living rainbow. She watched Ben approach with all 6 of her amber eyes. "This is my private place," she said. "No outsider has ever seen it." Ben stopped a few feet away from her. "It is wonderful. I grew these plants myself, over many centuries. When I could not face my people, I came here. I created beauty because I believed I had none of my own." Ben sat down on a stone near the pool. He did not rush, he did not push, he simply waited. "I could not sleep last night," the queen said. "I kept thinking about your face. When you saw me, you smiled. I have been seen by hundreds of beings from dozens of species. None of them ever smiled. Perhaps they did not know how to look." "What does that mean?" Ben thought for a moment. "When I was young, my grandmother was a painter. She spent her life creating art. She used to take me to places that other people found ugly. Old factories, junkyards, abandoned buildings. And she would point to things and say, 'Look at the way the light falls there. Look at the colors in that rust. Look at how that broken window catches the sky.' She taught me that beauty is not about what something is. It is about how you see it." The queen was silent. Her mandibles clicked softly. "Your grandmother sounds wise." She would have loved to paint you." The queen made a sound like a sharp breath. "You cannot mean that." "I mean it completely. The colors in your scales, the way your eyes glow, the patterns on your wings. She would have spent weeks trying to capture you on canvas, and she would have said she could never do you justice." The queen stood up. She was trembling slightly. Ben realized with a shock that she was trying not to cry if her species could cry. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. Everyone wants something. I want understanding between our peoples. I want the loneliness to end, for both of us." She looked down at him. "Both of us. What loneliness do you carry, human?" Ben was quiet for a moment. This was the part he never talked about. The party kept hidden, just like the queen kept herself hidden. But if he wanted her to trust him, he had to be willing to show his own wounds. "When I was a child," he said slowly, "the other children called me ugly. I had a condition that affected my face. It is fixed now, surgery when I was older, but I remember what it felt like, to see people look at you and turn away, to know that your appearance was the first thing they saw and the last thing they could forget. I remember the loneliness of believing that no one would ever see past my face to who I really was." The queen sat back down. She was closer now. Her eyes were soft. "You understand?" she whispered. "Yes, I understand." "Is that why you came on this mission, when other humans refused?" Ben nodded. "When I read the reports about your people, I recognized something. I saw a species that had been hurt so deeply by rejection that they decided to reject themselves first. I saw isolation used as armor. I have worn that armor myself. It does not protect you. It only makes the loneliness worse." The queen was quiet for a long time. The glowing creatures floated around them. The plants pulsed with gentle light. Finally, she spoke. "I am hideous human. Why do you not see it?" Ben laughed. It was a soft laugh, gentle and warm. Then he stood up and walked away toward the pool of glowing water. The queen rose quickly. "Where are you going? I asked you a question." Ben looked at the water for a moment. Then he turned back to face her. "I laughed because your question is the wrong one. You asked why I do not see your hideousness. But your majesty, there is no hideousness to see. You are asking me to explain why I do not see something that does not exist." "But the others," they all said. "The others were wrong. And I think, deep in your heart, you know they were wrong. That is why you created this garden. That is why you spend your time growing beauty. Because you understand what beauty truly is. You have simply forgotten that you are part of it." The queen stepped toward him. She moved slowly, like someone walking in a dream. "I have ruled for 300 years, she said. "I have commanded fleets and built cities and shaped the destiny of my people. But I have never felt as uncertain as I do right now." "Why?" "Because you are asking me to unlearn everything I have believed about myself for centuries. You are asking me to step out of the shadows. That is terrifying." Ben reached out his hand, palm up in offer. "The shadows do not protect you, your majesty. They only hide you, and I think you have hidden long enough." The queen looked at his hand. Then she looked at his face. She searched for any sign of lies or tricks or hidden motives. She found only patience, only kindness, only a man who understood what it meant to feel invisible and had decided to see her anyway. She reached out and placed her hand in his. Her scales were cool and smooth against his skin. Her claws rested gently against his wrist. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Ben said, "we walk into the light together, and you show your people that there is nothing to be ashamed of, not for you, not for any. They will not understand. Then we will help them understand. That is what diplomacy is, building bridges, one step at a time." The queen looked at the garden around them, at the beauty she had created in secret, in hiding, in shame. "One step at a time," she repeated. For the first time in 200 years, Queen of the Empire allowed herself to hope. Word spread through the palace like fire. The queen had been seen walking with the human ambassador, not through dark hallways, not in the shadows. She had walked with him through the main corridors in full light, where any servant or noble could see her face. By the end of the first day, the entire court was talking about nothing else. Advisor Tellin found Ben in his quarters that evening. The advisor's 8 eyes were wide with something between amazement and worry. "What did you do?" Tellin asked. "The queen has not walked openly in the palace for nearly a century. Now she is meeting with advisors in person. She is dining in the Great Hall. She is looking at people directly." Ben smiled. "I did not do anything. I simply refused to be afraid of her, and I helped her remember that she does not need to be afraid of herself." Tellin sat down heavily on one of the chairs. You do not understand what this means. The queen has built her power on distance. She ruled from darkness because she believed it made her more respected. Many in the court have never seen her face. They will not know how to react. And how are they reacting? Tellin paused. Some are amazed. They say she is regal, powerful, magnificent. They wonder why she ever hid. But others, the advisor's voice dropped. Others are worried. They say the human has cast some kind of spell on her. They say you are manipulating her for your own purposes. Ben had expected this. Change always frightens some people. Who leads this worry? Lord, he is one of the oldest nobles, very powerful. He has served the queen for over a century. He believes that her hiding was wise and that coming into the light is dangerous. He thinks you are a threat. Ben nodded slowly. Then perhaps I should speak with Lord. The meeting happened the next day in one of the smaller council chambers. Lord was waiting when Ben arrived. The noble was even taller than the queen, with scales that had faded to gray with age. His 4 eyes studied Ben with open hostility. So said, "You are the human who has enchanted our queen." Ben kept his voice calm. "I have enchanted no one. I have only offered friendship." Friendship made the word sound like poison. Humans know nothing of friendship. Your species is young and foolish. You spread through the galaxy like a disease, changing everything you touch. Now you come here and change our queen. Your queen was suffering. She had spent 200 years in darkness because she believed she was too horrible to be seen. Does that seem right to you? It is not your place to decide what is right for. No, Ben agreed. It is not, but I can offer a different perspective. I can show that the fear your people carry is based on lies told by others who did not understand you. Is it not worth considering that those lies might be wrong? Stepped closer. He towered over Ben, a mountain of gray scales and cold eyes. I have protected this empire for 200 years. I have kept the queen safe. I will not let one human destroy everything because of pretty words. I am not here to destroy anything. I am here to build something. Build what? A friendship between our peoples. A future where do not have to hide in shame. A galaxy where appearance does not determine worth. Stared at him for a long moment. Then the old noble shook his head. You are either a fool or a liar. Either way, I will be watching you, human. And if you harm the queen in any way, no treaty will protect you. He turned and left without another word. That evening, Ben walked in the inner garden again. The queen was there, tending to her glowing plants. She looked up when he entered. I heard about your meeting with, she said. He is not happy. No, he thinks I am manipulating you. Are you? Ben looked at her. What do you think? The queen was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, a real laugh this time, warm and surprised. I think you are the strangest being I have ever met. You look at me with no fear, no disgust. You speak to me as if we are equals. No one has ever treated me this way. Everyone should be treated this way. That is what humans believe, even if we sometimes forget it. The queen sat down by the glowing pool. Ben sat beside her. I have been thinking, she said, about what you said, about stepping into the light. I have not addressed my people directly in almost a century. They know me only as a voice, a shadow, a power in the darkness. I was thinking perhaps it is time for that to change. Ben felt his heart lift. What are you considering? A public address, in the Grand Plaza, where millions can see me with their own eyes. I would show them that their queen is not ashamed of what she is. Perhaps it would help them feel less ashamed of themselves. That is a wonderful idea. It is terrifying. The queen's voice was small. What if they hate what they see? What if they reject me the way the other species did? Ben shook his head. They are your people. They love you. They have followed you for centuries without ever seeing your face. When they finally see you, they will only love you more, because they will see that you are not just powerful, you are brave. The queen turned to look at him with all six eyes. You truly believe that? I know it. She reached out and touched his hand briefly. Will you stand with me when I address them? If you want me there, I will be there. I want you there. I need someone beside me who sees me as I truly am, not as a monster, not as a symbol, just as myself. Ben nodded. Then I will stand with you. They sat together in the garden as the soft lights pulsed around them. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the queen would walk out of the shadows forever, and Ben would be right there beside her, a human who had crossed the galaxy to tell a lonely queen that she was not hideous at all. The night before the address, Ben could not sleep. He stood at his window and looked out at the glowing city. Somewhere out there, millions have waited without knowing what was coming. Their whole world was about to shift. He thought about the queen. He thought about her courage. She had spent centuries believing she was a monster, and now she was about to stand before her entire civilization and let them see her. That took more bravery than any battle. He thought about himself, too, about the boy who had hidden his face, about the man who had learned to walk into rooms where everyone stared, about the choice to keep going anyway. Some bridges were built with stone and steel. Others were built with the simple choice to see another being truly and to let yourself be seen in return. Tomorrow they would build that bridge together. The Grand Plaza was the largest open space in the capital. It stretched for miles, surrounded by towers of black crystal that reached toward the sky. On this day, every inch of that plaza was filled with people. Millions of stood shoulder to shoulder, their scales shimmering in countless shades of purple and blue and green. They looked up at the royal balcony and waited. None of them knew what was about to happen. The announcement had simply said that the queen would speak. That alone was enough to draw the crowds. She had not spoken publicly in decades. For most of the gathered below, this would be the first time they heard her voice with their own ears. Ben stood in the shadows of the balcony, watching the sea of faces below. Advisor Tellen stood beside him, nervous and quiet. On the other side of the doorway, Lord waited with his arms folded, his gray face unreadable. She is coming, Tellen whispered. Ben turned. The queen walked toward them through the darkened hall. She moved slowly, each step careful and deliberate. She wore a simple robe of silver cloth. No crown, no jewels, no decorations of any kind. She had said she wanted them to see her, not her symbols. She stopped at the doorway to the balcony. Beyond it was the light. Beyond it were her people. Beyond it was the moment she could never take back. Are you ready? Ben asked softly. The queen looked at him. Her 6 amber eyes were filled with fear, but beneath the fear was something stronger, determination, hope. No, she said, I am not ready, but I will do it anyway. She stepped out onto the balcony. The sound from the crowd was immediate, a gasp that rippled through millions of throats. For most of them, this was the first time they had ever seen their queen. She had been a voice in the darkness for so long that many had forgotten she had a form at all. Now she stood before them in full light, 8 feet tall, scales of deepest black that caught the sun and scattered it into purple and blue, 6 eyes glowing soft amber, mandibles that clicked gently as she breathed, wings folded against her back like a cloak of darkness. She was not hiding, she was not ashamed. She simply stood and let them see. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Ben held his breath. Beside him, Tellen trembled, even had moved to the edge of the doorway to watch. Then a sound rose from the crowd. It started small, a single voice, then another, then 100, then 1,000. It was cheering. It was joy. It was millions of crying out for their queen. Ben saw faces in the crowd. He saw young looking up with wonder. He saw old ones with tears running down their scaled cheeks. He saw parents holding up their children so they could see. He saw a people who had been told they were monsters discovering that their queen was not afraid of what she was. Queen raised her hand, and the crowd fell silent. My people, she said, Her voice carried across the plaza, amplified by technology but needing no enhancement. It was strong and clear. For too long I have hidden from you. For too long I have ruled from darkness because I believed that was what you needed from me. I was wrong. She paused. The millions below waited. We have been told by other species that we are hideous, that we are nightmares, that we should be ashamed of what we are. For centuries I believed those lies. I hid my face because I thought seeing me would weaken your faith in me. But I have learned something new. She turned slightly and looked at Ben, still standing in the shadows of the doorway. A human came to our world. He looked at me with no fear. He saw not a monster but a queen. He reminded me that beauty is not what others see in you. It is what you see in yourself. It is what you create. It is how you treat those around you. She faced the crowd again. Today I stand before you as I truly am, not a voice in darkness, not a shadow. Like each of you, I am proud of what we are. Our scales catch the light and make rainbows. Our cities are wonders of the galaxy. Our people are strong and kind and worthy of respect. Let no one tell you otherwise. Let no one make you hide in shame. The cheering erupted again, louder than before. It was not just noise, it was release. Centuries of shame breaking apart under the weight of one simple truth. They were not monsters, they never had been. Later, after the crowds had finally gone home, Ben met the Queen in the inner garden one last time. The glowing plants pulsed around them. The small floating creatures drifted through the air. "You did something incredible today," Ben said. The Queen smiled. On her face, with her mandibles and her many eyes, it was a strange expression. But Ben had learned to read it. It was peace. It was happiness. "I only spoke the truth," she said. "You helped me see it. You were always able to see it. You just needed someone to remind you." She nodded slowly. "What happens now? You will return to Earth." "Eventually. But first we have work to do, treaties to write, exchanges to plan. Your people and mine have avoided each other for too long. Because of fear." "Yes, fear on both sides, but that ends now." The Queen reached out and took his hand. Her scales were cool against his skin, but the gesture was warm. "Before you go," she said, "I want to ask you something. In the throne room when you first saw me, you smiled. You said I was beautiful. Were those just diplomatic words? Were you just saying what I needed to hear?" Ben shook his head. "I told you the truth. My grandmother taught me to see beauty in everything. When I looked at you, I saw colors I had never seen before. I saw strength and grace and centuries of wisdom. I saw someone who had survived terrible loneliness and still had the power to rule with justice. That is beautiful. That will always be beautiful." The Queen was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, soft and wondering. "Humans are strange creatures," she said. "You fear so many things, and yet you reach out anyway. That is what makes us human. We are afraid, but we refuse to let fear win." She squeezed his hand gently. "Then perhaps we are not so different after all." Ben looked at this ancient queen, this powerful being who had hidden for centuries, and found the courage to step into the light. He thought about all the walls that existed between species, built from fear and misunderstanding. He thought about how easily those walls could fall when someone simply chose to see the being on the other side. "No," he said, "we are not so different at all." They stood together in the garden as the glowing lights pulsed around them. Two beings from different worlds, different species, different histories. But in that moment, they were simply two souls who had found each other in the darkness and decided to walk into the light together. Outside the palace, the sun set over the capital. For the first time in living memory, the streets were filled with people who walked without shame, who looked at each other without hiding, who smiled at the sky and felt proud of who they were. A new era had begun. And it had started with one human who refused to look away.